Hi, good morning. Who's at 545-8819?
This is Mark Springer, and I'm also
Hey.
connecting by Zoom.
Yay. How you doing, Mark? And you're joining
Just fine,
us.
thank you.
Okay, and you're going to do the double like on the phone and
Yeah, so I can hear it and hear it on the phone, talk on the phone, and see how long my Zoom connection lasts.
awesome. Okay. I just let you in for both, so you should be good to go.
First rate.
We've got a few folks lined up in the waiting room right now. And we'll wait just a couple minutes. And I can actually I'll press pause on the recording right now.
To go to Shelley, it's sort of a unique situation in these working groups that we do have folks that have got legitimate competing commercial interests here. So depending on which way questions and discussions go, if anybody feels like they need to be circumspect in how they address it, that's perfectly fine and perfectly understandable. I may actually find myself doing the same thing. So just a really fast 1 minute elevator talk. I've lived here in the YK Delta for pretty close to 40 years. Lived in Bethel for Cooper Bay for 20 some odd of those, and here in Bethel about the other half of that time. Worked for YKHC for about 10 years writing grants. Before that, actually my first job was at the Distance Delivery Consortium over at the college. In 1999 and 2000, that was kind of the first attempt to tie the region together electronically, and in some respects it was very successful. We were stymied in some of our efforts to actually bring some incredibly basic wireless out, but we did run a wide email network that everybody was on, all the school districts, the health corporation, individuals. It was really quite the web. Of course, out in Hooper Bay, I've done a little bit of everything. City administrator, worked for United Utilities off and on for a number of years back in the copper days. Most recently, I spent about a year and a half as the executive director of CEDS, during which time the tribe got their 2.5 gigahertz spectrum license and started to pursue opportunities to use it and opportunities to pursue NTIA grant funding. So with that, why don't we just, like we did yesterday, why don't we just go around the room. Shelley, if you want to go ahead and call people out, just introduce yourselves really quick, and then we'll get the show on the road.
Mark, Mark, I might just have a suggestion, just for the sake of the time that we have together. If folks would like to introduce themselves in the chat, and then when we get to an opportunity where folks are like verbally sharing or weighing in, then they can more further introduce themselves, just so that you guys and you folks can move right into the heart of the matter a little bit quicker. So if folks could please use the chat to introduce themselves, that would be super helpful.
Okay, that's great. That's just fine. Then with that, let's get started in here. So strategy, action, introduction, and knowledge sharing. Okay, you guys got that screen up. You know, let me just start really quick with a quote that I love from, if I remember his name right, Peki Anand, I believe. He was the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union back in the last century, I guess. But he made the very correct observation that the information economy is built on the three most abundant resources on Earth: sand, air, and human brain power. And when we had our internet conference in Bethel in 2000 with Red Boucher, and had the cultural center full of people from the villages. Some of them seeing the internet for the first time. I threw that quote out there, and I said, let's remember that out here we have plenty of sand on the beaches, and our air is as clean and clear as anybody's, and Yupik human brain power is second to none. So, with that, I think that the main focus of our discussion here should be what will be the economic, social, cultural impact of the telecommunications development that is being proposed in the NTIA grants through the tribal broadband program. There are a number of very ambitious projects that are out there. And how is that going to shake out? What are we going to be looking at in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years as a result of that? And question number one, what are we focusing on? Prioritizing and implementing regional communications projects. It's kind of a tough one. So let's do this. Let's ask Chief Williams, representing the Broadband Consortium, and then Ms. Handyside from GCI. And we got, is there anybody on from ACS? I know we have some Shalista folks on here. They're involved with the ACS NTIA proposal. So why don't we do that? Mike, you want to give us a elevator talk on what the Broadband Consortium has in mind?
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. I think the access to broadband connectivity will dramatically increase everything: educational, economic, health, and job opportunities for all of us. And we had 2.5 gigahertz certification from FCC, the ACAC Native community, along with you, along with ONC and several other tribes, and we have been working over the years about how we can get the digital divide closed in. And because we've been left behind, and there's no infrastructure in Western Alaska whatsoever right now. And ACAC Native community got a grant from BIA to do the feasibility study, and we did that a few years ago, and completed that study, and we, ACAC Native community, did the study and came up with strategies to take advantage of the most feasible, affordable broadband connection in very short period of time, and I know that we start hearing about the low Earth orbit and et cetera, about that opportunity in Alaska and elsewhere, and when we did the study, the most feasible, affordable opportunity arose from that, and we pursued the broadband internet opportunities with low Earth orbit, and we moved forward. ACAC Native community did, and we're almost in completion of our project here with the towers and equipment and the routers in homes and antennas and all of that stuff, and we're beginning to test the high-speed internet access as we speak right now. I think with the NTIA broadband grant opportunity arose with $1 billion from Congress, and the only way I think we can get the most mileage out of that is to have a consortium of tribes, and we invited all of the 56 tribes to have one application submitted to NTIA, and we did that, with the deadline, and we submitted that on behalf of 17 tribes that authorized us to submit a grant on their behalf, and I know that ACAC is going to be have full broadband, low Earth orbit, 24/7. About November 15th, next month. But I think that's what we're going to take a look at and see. We're testing it out for a year, and I know that when we first start these projects, we're going to have few glitches, but we're avoiding all of that, all of those glitches, and we're going to be online all winter long, and all of our village residents' homes are going to have free internet services for the coming year. And because we want to find out what the usage is, and find out and gather that data for a year. But I think with that doable in a very short period of time, we were able to do it, and it's going to be the first broadband service in Western Alaska right now as we speak. The second phase of our plan with the tribes here is we prefer fiber optic, and I know that has been a discussion, and we try to get all of the tribes mobilized here in the region to get the best. And I think, in order for Indian country to get with all of those proposals, it's going to be a lot more than $1 billion. $1 billion is just a start, and hopefully those grant applications that are in is going to be a lot more needs in throughout the United States, including Alaska, and I think right now we're just focused on our community, the 17 tribes that are we are doing that with, and we're already mapping out those 17 tribes with assessing where the locations of those towers are going to be in the communities, and it's wonderful to work with a team with engineers and with those folks that are geared to help this move forward, and we're just gonna keep moving forward, and hopefully by mid-December we will know exactly where the funding stream is, and I know each community is going to be getting funding, and we're planning on that right now, and I think this is the most feasible way to do it, and in the future we're pursuing fiber optic, and preferably owned by the tribal governments, and running that business by the tribal governments, and that's something that that we need to exercise the self-determination of the tribes, and the sovereignty of each tribe to own that business, and to produce economic development and improvement of quality of our education and health care and business in the region. So that's a short update on what Akiak Native community is doing, and we're very excited, and it's going to be full 24/7 shortly here next month, and it's going to be Thanksgiving for all of us. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, William. Mike was a little bit modest. I just want to point out that Akiak Technology, which is kind of the overhead on the project, is the Akiak Native Community's 8A corporation. It's a mature 8A, and it's a real good sign that a small tribe on the Kuskokwim River can get into the 8A business successfully and stay in it. Just one other thing I want to say is that one of the linchpins to the consortium project is that they are kind of using the United Utilities workforce development model. Their workforce ultimately will be almost entirely Yupik, folks from the region, getting trained up into and stepping into, pretty high-level positions in the organization, as whether it's NOC controllers, already installers, tower men and women. So it's really exciting to see that going on.
Yes, Mark. I just wanted to do this quickly because of the time constraints that we always. Akiak Native Community is certified under Small Business Administration, and we were very successful to start that Akiak Holdings, and then Holdings is our business, Small Business Administration, and also our Akiak Technologies is the subsidiary, and that's what we're moving forward with, and I would recommend all of the tribes get into SBA 8A program that is offered, and we're very excited about building our economy here in Akiak, and to all of the villages that need to have that affordable internet, high-speed access, and I'm just really excited about it. Everybody's excited here, and it's wonderful to do something that will help improve the quality of life in our community. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a quick question? This is Shelley.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Shelley.
Mike, thank you so much for that level of detail. Is it okay with you if we start to take a little more detailed notes? So on the screen where we were hitting really the high level, but ideally I'd love for folks to just see more of the detail. And Mike, you were sharing, and in the notes that go out to everybody afterwards, is it okay if we capture a lot of the detail that you shared today?
Mike, I don't think you said anything proprietary there, so I don't think there'd be any problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think, we have that, we've been sharing the ACAC Native Community Broadband Feasibility Study report with everybody, with YKHC, AVCP, school districts, and everyone. And it's a public document that we compiled, and please share it. And I'm willing to share it with everyone that wants to take a look at that feasibility study. And it's pretty comprehensive. And we did that feasibility study, and it's very short and very detailed and readable, understandable, and it's pretty nice. So please share it.
okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll
Thanks
get a
so
copy
much.
of it to you, Shelley.
Cool. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Chief Williams. Let me ask Heather Kavanaugh from ACS if she'd like to fill us in on what ACS is doing with particularly with the NTIA application. I believe you have one in consort with a couple of regional corporations. Do you be willing to share that with us?
Yeah, hi, Mayor Springer. Happy to share that. I actually have some slides, and I'm happy to share my screen if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. Do you need to give me access to do that?
No, you should have full-on access. Yeah, everybody should have access.
Okay.
Let me know if it's not happening for you, Heather.
Oh, here we go. Okay, great. So first, I really just want to start off by saying thank you for inviting us. And really, this is about Chalista and our other partners in the formation of this project. So I want to thank them and offer for them to jump in and add anything that I may miss. And, great work to everybody who is figuring out how we bridge the digital divide. I think that's such a significant challenge in Alaska, and it's great to see that so many good minds are coming up with solutions. And so we feel like this is just one piece of the puzzle. And so congratulations to the other projects that are the potential projects in the works. And our goal is really to serve as many Alaskans with high-speed internet that's affordable and reliable, and to partner with other organizations to make that happen. So I just want to confirm that you can see the slides here.
Yep.
Okay, good, cool.
You
Thanks,
may
Shelley.
want to just punch the full screen button there, Heather. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, let me see if how does that look to you guys?
Oh, that's given us your
Yeah,
view.
that's what it usually does. So
If you go to the display settings, hit your display settings, click on that one that's on the upper.
Oh, you got it now. You got it.
Oh, it's on, if you go to display settings, Heather, it's right at the top of the screen there.
Yeah.
And you click down and it should, go ahead and punch that. There you go.
All right, awesome. I feel like with two monitors, it's tricky, and I don't use Zoom as much as Teams. So anyway, thank you for that little tutorial.
You're welcome.
I will try to make it really quick. I think there's probably a lot to cover today from all the organizations. So I'll just step through these various things quickly. And I feel like I don't even need to share the purpose with you. You all get it. It's about delivering the technology that the region needs, that the communities need for healthcare, education, economic development, quality of life, safety, all of those important things. So this particular project aims to provide high-speed internet in these 23 communities that you can see here along both the Yukon and the Kuskokwim rivers. We would serve, the project aims to serve almost 12,000 rural Alaskans, 78% of whom are Alaska Native. And this is a high-level view of the project. So it's fiber optic, and I'll talk about that a little more in just a minute. And it would start here in Fairbanks. It would go up to the Yukon River, and then from here it goes to Fort Yukon, and then all the way down to Holy Cross. And then at Holy Cross, there's a terrestrial portion of the project that connects to the Kuskokwim River. And then from there, it goes down to Napakiak. And I'll show you just a little bit of a closer view of each section. So these are, we kind of planned these in phases. So this project would all happen at the same time, but there are 3 distinct phases that would just happen concurrently. So you can see here in a little bit more detail, the fiber route. And again, I'm just skipping through this pretty fast, so let me know if you want me to stop if you have questions. And of course, I welcome my colleagues at Calista to join in. So what we would be doing is we would be putting fiber in sections of the rivers, and we would use horizontal directional drilling to do that, and then to bring the fiber into each community. We would use that horizontal directional drilling, and this is an example of what a landing site would look like. This is actually a landing site that's up on the North Slope, and we recognize there are absolutely challenges associated with putting fiber in a river in Alaska. And so we have been working really hard on understanding both rivers and all of the potential risks. We've identified a number of known areas where there are ice jams or ice dams. And in those areas, we would actually bring the fiber out of the river terrestrially around the ice jam or ice dam area. And we've been working with a local firm who knows the rivers well and has helped us do a lot of the environmental and regulatory planning. And so we feel like there's absolutely a way of doing this safely and without disrupting the environment. And as I mentioned earlier, this would all be fiber optic cable capable of delivering up to gigabit speeds. And then we would also be offering fiber to the home in each community. And so what's really exciting about this technology is that it's future-proof. There's the opportunity for other communities to connect to it down the road. And so we feel like it's really building a backbone in this region that has been needed for so long. And really the only reason that it doesn't exist today is because it's just been so expensive that there hasn't been funding available to do it, and now there is. And so we're really excited about that. So one aspect of this project that is really important to all of us is the affordability. And so we have committed to offering home internet rates in all of the communities at urban prices. So an example of that would be today, we offer unlimited internet up to 50 megabits in Anchorage for $89.99 a month. If we were in any of these communities today, that's exactly what we would be offering service for. And then healthcare clinics, schools, and tribal offices can also expect to see their rates go down. Those are business customers, and so their rates are different. Each one is different depending on what they need, but generally, I think they can all expect to see what they would be paying today would be less. So of course, as we talked about earlier, this funding would be through the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. And in terms of timing, we understand NTIA has given mid-November as a date by which they plan to let people know if they are awarded funding or not. We expect it could take longer than November, so we're planning for maybe an early 2022 notification. If we were to be successful in getting that grant funding, we would start the permit process right away. We have a lot of things already lined up for that, with a goal to complete construction in 2024. And so I think with that, that's really everything I wanted to share today. Again, I'm happy for our colleagues at Chalista to add anything, and also happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
This is
Heather.
Terry. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead. I was just thanking her for her presentation. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'll introduce myself. I'm Terrence Pearson. I'm the CIO at Chalista Corporation. And one of the things that I would like to bring up, and at least from my perspective, I look at this not necessarily from a business perspective. I look at it from a technical and a connectivity perspective for the region. And not only the region, Alaska. So when we look at all of the efforts that are out there that are trying to move forward and are hopefully moving forward, I look at them as all complementary. Whether it be the satellite technology with low Earth orbit or micro geo from some of the offerings that are being pursued now, I think those are awesome. I think that the fact that there are potentially fiber links coming from the west and from the east, everybody I think needs to look at this from the perspective that all of this is needed to lift up the region when we talk about the Yukon-Kuskokwim region. So to me, I look at it purely from a redundancy and a reaching customers perspective. I think all of these have very, very vital pieces to play in this, and I don't look at it from a competitive perspective. I know that the NTIA and the federal government looks at the grant process as a competitive grant process, but in the end, I look at being able to connect our region to the outside world, and the more the better. So I'll leave it at that. And if Miranda wants to speak, she can.
Well, I've got a quick question for you.
Mark, it looks like Miranda was trying to talk, but she was still muted.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Miranda.
Thanks very much. I'm on my phone audio too here, talking about connectivity issues. It's common in Alaska. But as people have been sharing, and as folks in this group know even better than I do, the need in the YK region is so vast because it's a connectivity desert. So as Terrence was explaining, Chalista has been really supportive and excited to see these other applications go in from BNC and from the consortium. We've written letters of support for those projects because we think that the federal government should be investing in all three and that they're complementary. So specifically the BNC project, and obviously I'm not a technical expert, no lawyer ever is, we're a bunch of Luddites, but that would be great for the coastal communities in the future, while Chalista's project, teaming up with Doyon and Ghanaiu could be a great way to continue expanding across the Yukon and the Kuskokwim. And then Chief Williams and his group with the low Earth orbit satellites, will just be reinforced by that infrastructure. And that will be a great way to help, that connectivity across. And then Terrence's good point as far as creating, those systems that will be there. So there will at least be an initial layer, and then they can reinforce each other. So I really appreciate this forum so we can talk about ways where we can work together and try to bring more infrastructure into region. And it's great to see, that the Anchorage prices will be present out in the YK as well with that affordability point, and that this project is going to go across 23 villages in the interior and the YK. So thanks very much, and feel free to reach out if anyone has any other questions or wants to talk about this later.
Great. Thank you, Miranda. I just got a question, maybe mostly for Chalista. There's a big elephant out here on the YK Delta as far as connectivity goes, and that is the fully permitted fiber optic cable right of way that goes from Tyonek to Crooked Creek. The permits are held by Donald Gold, but I'm just wondering, and if you don't want to answer the question, that's fine, but I'm just wondering if there has been any consideration by you or any of the partners you're working with and trying to develop connectivity out here to taking some rapid advantage of that right of way.
I'm happy to start, and then I'll ask if Terrence or anybody else wants to add to it. Are you talking about the corridor that goes between the Kuskokwim and the Yukon rivers? That terrestrial corridor?
No. I'm talking about the fully permitted right of way for the Donlin Mine natural gas pipeline and fiber optic cable route.
I'll leave it to, I think Miranda, I'll leave it to Miranda to address this.
And I was just going to say, I think that, so what, if I'm understanding correctly and visualizing this in my head, this is a route, a right of way that's not part of this particular project that we just shared with you. Is that correct?
That's correct. It runs from Cook Inlet up to Crooked Creek.
So what I, understand right now, Mayor Springer, it's a great question. Thank you. We're really focused on getting this initial fiber in this region. And again, we view it as a starting point. And then I think, all of the partners in the project are very happy to look at what's next. Where do we go from here once this fiber, which is going to be so critical for the region, what can we build off of that? And so we, I know ACS hasn't given it a super close look yet, but we do see that there's a lot of possibility in the region once we get some of these first projects in place.
Okay,
Miranda, is there anything you want to add?
Fair.
Hey, Mark, really quick, I just wanted to point out that Clarence had a question in the chat. I don't know if folks saw that.
About the impact of the BIA plan, and let's not bother talking about that right of way. It's a completely different deal. Why don't we raise that question very quickly? Particularly, maybe Heather, you can address that. Clarence's question was, what impact will the BIA Western Alaska planning process and plan have on certainly your permitting efforts across BIA land? And that's been kind of a hot topic for a while.
Clarification, it's BLM, Mark, just to clarify quickly.
Oh, BLM. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, my chats disappear. But yeah, the BLM Western Alaska plan, which has been a hot topic among villages across the state. So how's that going to, or would it be affecting your proposal?
So Clarence, it's a great question. And what we've done is we've worked with a really well-known Alaska firm that has done extensive research on all of the permitting. And, all I can say is that we have a pretty solid regulatory and permitting kind of an outline of everything that we'll need to be working on. And as far as specific questions, you might want to, if you want to email me, I'm happy to see if we can answer them, but I don't have a lot of detail on that right now.
Okay, thanks.
The main reason I was asking the question is because I know that there are a few tribes that were proposing the ACECs in that particular area, or especially the land between the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers. There's a lot of BLM land there in the areas of critical, I forgot what the acronym stand for, but entering those in to kind of make it pristine. That's the only reason I was asking the question.
Okay, great. Thank you, Clarence. So let's move on to GCI. Ms. Handyside, you have the floor and the screen.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Springer, and thanks folks for inviting me today. I know that you have a lot of important things to discuss, and I know this is, I believe, intended to be a conversation and a dialogue among stakeholders in the region. So I'll just give you a high-level overview of what GCI proposes to do with our proposed grant project in partnership with Bethel Native Corporation. GCI is proposing to build a fiber connection into Bethel that will serve Bethel, Napaskiak, Oscarville, Eek, and Platinum with urban level speeds, the same kind of speeds that folks, our customers in urban areas enjoy. And that is 1,000 megabits per second, 1 gig, and soon we'll be turning up to 2 gigs or 2,000 megabits per second. So we really decided to go with a fiber strategy because as many folks on the call have already said, fiber is really the gold standard, is future-proof, and allows us almost limitless capacity in terms of speed and data. GCI has been working on, as everyone on this call has been, bridging and closing the digital divide in Alaska. It's a huge challenge for our state, and we were excited when the grant opportunity became available that helps us, create a financial model that makes sense to build out into some of our rural communities. We've long thought that we always think that fiber is the best solution. But in terms of cost, distance, and extreme climate, sometimes it's really hard to make the projects make sense and pencil out financially. So the grant gave us this opportunity, and we're really excited to bring this service to Bethel. We are, and in terms of pricing, we'll be consistent with what our urban customers get in terms of pricing. I think right now, consumers have a $75 plan that provides, I don't have the numbers with me right now off the top of my head, but a $75 plan is an urban plan, and they go up to $175 for our 2 gigabit speeds, which we just turned up across the state. So we are looking forward to receiving feedback on our plan. I appreciate all of the other plans that have been presented today. I think this is an exciting opportunity. Alaska is a big state. It takes a lot of providers to connect everyone. And I'm happy to take questions, but before I do that, I also want to congratulate the chief on his, and Chief Williams and his team on getting this new service up and running in Akiak. I mean, that is the LEO connectivity, I think, is a great tool to have in our toolkit in terms of connectivity, and is a great solution for many communities. And I think that that's a great milestone, both for the region and even for the state. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Well, thank you. I guess my question is, what are you planning for routing? You said Platinum. Are you going to be going around through? You're starting in Level Lock, right? That's where your fiber landing station is, or your termination is for Terra. Is that correct? Hello.
Heather, are you still there?
Okay. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. I'm still
Yeah,
here.
sure.
And yes, Mayor, that is correct. Starting in Levelock, then to Platinum, then Napaskiak, Eek, Oscarville, and Bethel.
So are you going to be, how are you getting to Platinum? Are you going overland, or are you going to be going just going back around subsea?
I believe it's a subsea route that we're planning right now.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, that was my question on that. If anybody else has
I've got a
questions
question.
for GCI, go right ahead.
Yeah, this is John Charlie with ABCP IT. I had a question. So if you're going to be coming through the Platinum route, what are your plans for the northbound route up towards the Yukon between Bethel and Imanak, to that area?
Right now, our plan, the first phase of our plan stops in Bethel. We're hoping that if we get this grant, then we will have an opportunity not only to kind of supercharge our existing Terra network to provide better service to existing communities that we already serve with our microwave system, but that the fiber will give us an opportunity to build out fiber to additional regional communities. So I don't have a specific plan that I can share with you now, but we do have a strategy that we're working on that we're hoping to share very soon. But the initial grant that we applied for this round with Bethel Native Corporation begins in Levelock and ends in Bethel.
Yeah, are there any more questions for Heather? And just if anybody has any questions for ACS or for Mike, now's a good time to ask those also. Let's kind of flesh things out. If there's anything
I have another question for ACS. This is John again.
Go ahead.
So I saw on your map you're running to run a fiber from Fairbanks down the Yukon and then cutting across from Holy Cross over terrestrial land to the Kuskokwim side, all down to Napakiak. So if I'm understanding, or maybe I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly, so you're going to have fiber between the terrestrial run from the Yukon to the Kuskokwim side. Is that fiber, or is that something another form of connectivity there?
That would be fiber as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Okay, great. I am trying to get back onto Zoom here so I can get back to looking at the agenda. Shelley, or how are we doing on time? And what's the next thing we should be taking up? I would like to hear from some of the stakeholders who, are ABCP and, any communities that are online, what your kind of vision over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years is as to what the net impact of increased connectivity to the communities, what that means to your organizations and what that means to the people of the YK Delta.
One quick thing, Mark.
John with ABCP.
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to take a stab at it. So after hearing what the potentials are, and from all some of the things that are happening already, I see two paths to these services that are becoming available. So I think you're going to have two customers. You're going to have the residential customers and the business sector customers. As far as the business sectors are concerned, depending on what their priorities are, I think it's going to play a key role in what form of service that the big business sectors are going to get. As far as ABCP is concerned, we have about 32 villages that we have staff that are spread out in our region. And it's going to depend on what kind of data or what tools that we're using to connect our villages and what the requirements are. So it just depends on each business sector. YKC is another one. It's just going to depend on what priorities they want on that service, and if it's feasible to use that form of service that's available. Will it going to be over the broadband? Is it going to be satellite? So I think it's going to depend on the performance of those two kinds of services that are going to be made available. So something to consider. And as far as ABCP is concerned, we have some applications that we'll be using to connect our villages, and I think we're headed in a direction where up until today, what I'm hearing is I called our region a bottleneck zone because of the slow, inefficient services that we're getting to connect our villages. But I think we have some promising services that are coming about that may resolve some of the issues that were and the questions and issues that we're working to connect our village staff so that they have access to the resources efficiently to do their work.
Great, thanks, John. And I just want to, John has been in the IT game out here in Bethel for a long time. We worked at YKC at the same time and went over to AVCP. So he has kind of seen the evolution of connectivity from really almost the very beginning out here, huh, John?
Yeah, I think I've like that. One of the saying this has been there, done it. So I've seen all the forms of services from satellite to fiber to broadband. So that's why I say it's just going to depend on what the requirements are as far as residential and business sectors are concerned.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, no, that was good. Good presentation there. I'm still not.
Hey, Clarence?
Sort of back on Zoom. Go
Mayor,
ahead, Clarence. Yeah, go ahead, Clarence.
I'm going to bring something up from not really my as an AVCP person, but someone as a stakeholder that would advocating for stakeholders and the rest of the people that receive these services. So I know that all businesses have strategic plans and things in place to prioritize the work that they're doing. What I would ask for the businesses like GCI and ACS and everyone who's being the provider, when you put this infrastructure in, there's going to be a lot of O&M afterwards. And the thing that I'm asking for you to consider when you're developing your strategic plans is all of the equity, give thought to equity when you're doing your strategic evaluations of how are we going to prioritize our projects in the future. Use equity in there and not just base it on cost benefit analysis, because when it comes to cost benefit analysis, our region is never going to be at the top. So I would highly recommend you put in a lot of equity evaluation criteria. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Clarence. Let me call on Eric O'Brien from the Denali Commission. Eric, the Denali Commission provided some seed money to one of the, I believe to ATS, and let me just, the fabric of this on the tribal side is really quite fascinating. There are two kind of statewide groups, Alaska Tribal Broadband, Alaska Tribal Spectrum, that came into being initially when the FCC made the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, the old educational television service spectrum, available to tribes. They worked very diligently, along with a lot of other organizations, to make sure that as many tribes as possible applied for those applications. And when I first saw the notice from the FCC, it scared the heck out of me. I saw words like engineering studies and all kinds of stuff. And I thought, oh, that's going to be a tough one. And then one day my phone rang. It was a lady from Las Vegas, Native American woman working for and the group escapes me. She said, hey, we want to help you do this application. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay. And we were done in 15 minutes. I had to go get the chairman's signature, send it to her, and bam, it was done. The big thing about the broadband licenses is they are a use it or lose it situation. There is a November 2022 build out deadline for the first phase, and November 24 build out deadline for the second phase. And if a tribe does not build out and use that spectrum, it'll go back to the FCC and they'll auction it off. But Eric, could you talk a little bit about that, and maybe if you're able to give us some insight on what the infrastructure bill may hold for tribal broadband nationally, and maybe if there's anything in there for Alaska.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Well, you know, when ACS and GCI and Chalista were speaking, I wanted to echo something Terrence said, is that, you know, there's a competitive nature to this, and that there's limited funding and there's a lot of need. And so different groups are going to apply for the funding. And so I heard what Terrence say is, you know, we need it all. And I would just echo that. This is so important to, you know, the future of particularly rural Alaska. The communications infrastructure, I think, is going to very much change our societies, our economies, and I think for the very much better. I think it's going to build in flexibility and opportunity and new jobs and new education, and I think it's going to promote a subsistence style of lifestyle. And I do say that with a little bit of knowledge. I do participate in a setnet fishery down on Kodiak. And I'm able to do that to a limited degree because of the internet that is down there. So I am just extremely excited about broadband. There's so much need, and there's so many pots of funds coming at us. And so take every opportunity to apply for everything that you can. And then I wanted to put in a plug for the Denali Commission and our broadband program. We have money, and the Denali Commission is special and flexible. And where we like to come in is addressing the challenges to typical funding streams. So our funding is nowhere near the amounts that are coming out with these other federal programs, but it's very flexible. And so what we can do is we can help different entities fill the gap. And so maybe that is needing some planning, or maybe talking to your community members and doing outreach and actually boots on the ground, or someone calling on the phone and talking to those community members and council members and getting the support. That a big support, community support is a big part of the scoring criteria in many of these applications. Engineering studies, of course, is really critical. If you're going to build a piece of hard infrastructure, oftentimes the grant applicants want to know, at least at a high level, what you're going to build, but they may not fund that. So just as a parting note, not a parting note, but to keep in mind, please keep in mind the Denali Commission. And if you are struggling to put together an application for broadband, it is so important and it's so necessary. Please do keep in mind that the Denali Commission may have some ability to help. We have been participating in this realm and trying to use our money for the greatest bang for the buck, return on investment, to make sure that most of those dollars flow to you. And a lot of that is information circulating. So thank you, Mayor. To your question about the FCC 2.5 networks and Alaska Tribal Spectrum, gosh, we were looking at the Alaska Tribal Spectrum soon after it opened up in February of 20, which was just prior to COVID. And we put together a plan to do regional workshops all around Alaska. And we had our first one with the Tlingit Haida folks of Southeast Alaska in that February, actually late February. And the next week, the world, or at least America, met COVID, and everything changed, and we had our schedules changed. And so we tried to circulate information, and I actually was really happy about this aspect, is that I was able to deepen my engagement with some of the regional tribal organizations, both the corporations and the native nonprofits. They all operate a little different. They all have a different place, but reaching out to them, trying to get the information out. But, virtual and digital is just not going to be as effective as that. That's my 6-year-old, and she's home for an in-service today. I'm sorry. Ava, please be quiet. We continued down the 2.5 road, and with a month to go, I think Alaska had 10 licenses signed up. And so this group that had worked with tribal groups in the past, I think mostly from the Kenai Peninsula area, Jim has been very successful in securing and getting grants, and he had a technical nature. I think he was a programmer of some sort. He built websites, so he had this technical nature. So he was able to speak that language, and he knew about tribes from working in tribes for Alaska for a long time. And he put in an application to simplify the process. And so, that was our Hail Mary shot. We had a month to go. We had 10 of 229 tribes signed up, and we threw our Hail Mary. And Jim Berlin is Alaska Tribal Spectrum. He talks about an easy button, and he created a website that simplified a lot of the information that the FCC needed. And then one of the technical pieces they needed was maps, site maps, GIS maps. They were a little bit technical in nature, and they're difficult to develop. So he would develop those for the tribes. And in that last month, we had 10 more tribes sign up to Alaska Tribal Spectrum. And I don't know if that was directly related to it, but the FCC did extend the deadline for the 2.5 networks. And in that next month, the regional organizations really stepped up and to help their communities and help their tribes. And Alaska Tribal Spectrum stepped up to fill the gap. And the outcome was that 185 tribes applied for their application, covering 98% of Alaska. And it was just extremely successful. But to Mayor Springer's point, getting the license was the first step, and now we need to keep it. So I don't want to go too far down this road, but there are funds available, and it is a use it or lose it. I do know that a great deal of the tribal broadband grant funding was to build out the local area networks, the 2.5 networks for tribes. There is also the Treasury Funds Capital Projects Funds, which is $167,000 available to each tribe in all of America, so in Alaska. And you're not going to build middle mile or big infrastructure for $167,000, but you might be able to really put in some really critical 2.5 networks that could be an asset to be owned by your tribe. I think it gives you a table to work with the existing telco companies, because throughout all this, the telephone companies, the ACSs, the GCIs, and all the rest, Bushtel, I believe, is a local carrier in your region, are going to be critically important to working with the tribes. And so, I think the answer to this is all of the above, and it's extremely complicated. And these funding streams are now open to tribal entities, other nonprofits, entities that don't have that technical nature. And a lot of information is new and needs to be brought to bear. And that, I think, is when I started out saying what the Denali Commission is special is I feel like we can help close that information gap. So I'll pause there, Mayor. I kind of rambled on for a bit, and see if I hit the topics you wanted to. See if there's questions.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. No, that was very insightful. I am kind of wondering, I know that the infrastructure bill currently has got an additional $2.2 billion in it for tribal broadband. Are you aware of, on or off the record, of any additional broadband funding that might be getting penciled in somewhere in Washington for Alaska broadband development?
So this is definitely in pencil, because the legislature, the Congress, is still making sausage, I think is the saying goes. They're mixing and matching, and they're horse trading. So we don't know what it's going to be. So it's penciled in. Yes, there was absolutely $65 billion available for broadband. I don't know how that's split up. There was absolutely a tribal set aside for that. I do know that this $100 million set aside for the Treasury, that's official. That one already has been passed. In addition to 112 or 114 million available to the state of Alaska. The state of Alaska has some strings attached. It needs to have some business plan, but that's relevant to the tribal areas, because in many cases the AVCP region is very rural, and that is a missing portion of where the infrastructure is needed. So even though that's the state's money, I would think that input from the tribal community is going to be vital into helping the state identify where the need is greatest. So that's the capital fund. The $65 billion, I don't know exactly how it's going to be split, but I heard a rumor that Alaska could be getting anywhere from $1 billion to even $2.5 billion. So I am not holding my breath on that until it comes through. But the good news is we have been effective in telling the Alaska story. And from a broadband perspective, it's a simple story. We're a big state with a small population, and the internet physically connects us all. That means there's going to be a lot of infrastructure dollars that Alaska needs. And you can look at the YK region and see that there's big gaps just in the missing fiber that connects, or rather is not in your region yet. I'm hoping for the project that was discussed earlier, ACS and Chalista. I hope those come to bear. I didn't know about the Doyon corridor, but I hope that comes to bear. I hope GCI's project to bring fiber up to Bethel comes to bear. I hope it all comes to bear, and we need it because there's probably, no one really knows, but there's probably a $3 billion broadband gap. So even if we get $2.5 billion, we're still a little bit short. We need to piece some things together, but being $500,000 short, $500 million, so they're big numbers, it is a lot better than $3 billion. And I am very hopeful that in the coming years, major funds are going to be flowing to Alaska. And on top of all this, the GEOs and the LEOs and the other satellites are going to be important for Alaska.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. So the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum is it's important because not only can it be used for
I said I'm
wireless
Hey,
data
hey,
carrier.
Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, can you mute yourself, please? Thanks.
Yeah, that 2.5 gigahertz spectrum is extremely valuable because it can be used not just for carriage of wireless internet, but it can also be used for mobility. You can have cell phones that'll work on there too, and that kind of plays to the importance of the partnerships, especially with small local exchange carriers. So we really need to make sure that spectrum is used as last mile at every opportunity. Although I do like fiber to the home. That's you look at Korea and they have had fiber to the desktop for an awfully long time. They've got some of the fastest residential internet you're going to want to see. So that's a bar to go to. I also want to just reflect that we have had wireless internet on the YK Delta in the past. Jim Stevens, you may know, had a wireless internet business in Bethel. I want to say around 2005, maybe just a little bit earlier. He had satellite downlink, and it was a mesh network that he built. And it wasn't fast, but it was internet before there was cable modem or DSL. So that happened. And also GCI, when they kicked the door down in the rural telecommunications market, back with FCC, and everybody said, oh, nobody else wants to invest in rural Alaska. They said, watch this, and built 5 earth stations with YKHC next to clinics. And in Hooper Bay, all of a sudden, for a while at least, we had GCI wireless internet. So it's been proven. The big difference is going to be the speed and the capacity. So we have demonstrated that it works out here in rural Alaska. So I, despite the fact that I am in the shadow of the Bethel Terra Tower, I just can't get back on the Zoom. Shelley, why don't you fill us in on where we're at, and why don't I let you or Freddie lead the orchestra here for a little while?
Okay, no problem, Mr. Mayor. Okay, thanks, Eric, for that overview. And I just wanted to tag on to that to share that If you folks know Mike Black with ANTHC, he did a little bit of kind of behind the scenes work and was connected with Senator Murkowski's office yesterday. And a member of the senator's staff is actually joining us for the transportation conversation later today, which starts at 1:30. And the good news about that is the senator's staff will give us a briefing on really the status of the infrastructure package. And I think there's an opportunity here to go outside of the transportation zone in that particular conversation to ask about communications and these other pieces that we're talking about here. So I just wanted to share that if folks are hoping to join this afternoon or are planning to join the transportation conversation, that we will have a briefing from Senator Murkowski's staff on the infrastructure package. So wanted to share that. And then I think actually coming to Eric was a great idea because the next part of our conversation is supposed to be really focused on action planning for the next 1 to 2 years. And I think an example of making the next, maybe baby steps toward progress here includes some of the types of seed funding that Eric has just described in the 160+ K opportunity for each tribe. So there's certainly that, and I think that could be a task or an action that gets identified here as something over the next 1 to 2 years. Or, Eric, did you say that there was what was the deadline or timeline on that? You probably mentioned that twice already and I've missed it.
Yeah, and I would just offer, and I sent an email to contacts at the regional level, Chalista and AVCP, but the Treasury Department has asked for a meeting with tribes. And so if other entities want that information, you can reach out to me. I think it's better coming from your regional partners, just because I don't want to miss anybody. But on next Wednesday, the 27th at 11 o'clock, there's going to be information on that. It's brand new. I don't even know if applications are being accepted now, but the money is, it's available for tribes. It's not still in Congress. It is available. And I think it's 167,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought I heard you say yesterday. Okay.
Yep. And then, deadline, June 2022. So there's still some time, but it doesn't hurt anything. And I would say it behooves all of us start thinking about it. And just to put a plug for local area networks, leave that up to the best choice of the tribes to say what that looks like. I hope you will consider your 2.5 networks if you've got the license, because it is a build it or lose it. But another thing to think about is distance delivery. And we talked a lot about access and affordability because that's the elephant in the room. But hopefully in a couple of years, we've got really good access and we can talk about and affordability, and we can talk about how we're going to use this. How can we expand on the value of the wireless networks for the health and safety network, or for Internet of Things, or for advances in distance delivery services, better training, more rich or valuable training for people. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the additional detail.
Hey, just a quick one for Eric. Eric, there's also some EDA money out there too, isn't there?
Yeah, just a paltry $3 billion. The Build Back Better grants were due on the 19th. There were, Alaska put in 10 or so applications so that I know of. There is also a tribal set aside, and there is some tourism set aside, and I'm not sure if EDA has a communication set aside. But yes, there's 6 different programs from EDA for $3 billion, one of which is a tribal set aside.
Thank you.
But
Go ahead, Shelley.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask Mark, like, as the tag on. So do you know, Eric, and sorry to keep asking you questions, but is the deadline the same for the tribal set aside?
No, I think, don't hold me to this. I think March of 22.
Okay.
Is the tribal
we can put
funds.
Preliminarily. Yeah, we can check on that. Because we have folks, those of you that are not super familiar with the CEDS document itself, there's a 5-year CEDS 2018 to 2023 that is, again, about comprehensive economic development, economic resiliency for the YK. And then there is an annual update that was published in May 2020. And this certainly the communications infrastructure pieces continue to be, one of the top priorities. But we've also been sort of tracking and trying to do our best at tracking the funding opportunities tied to each of these priority projects. So to what degree we can continue to refresh that information and share it broadly, I think is one of our goals too, not just in communications, but across all CEDS topics. Okay, thanks, Eric.
One more thing, and I'm gonna have to be vague because I'm beholden to be vague, but a very important entity has a very, very large grant of $1 billion. In its typical form, it's available to companies. There is also a very important tribal set aside there, and that can fund very large projects. I don't want to talk too much, get myself in trouble, but I'm expecting, but maybe by the end of the month, maybe by next week, that should be announced. It's getting a lot of fanfare from administrative level that they want to be the one to announce it, but $1 billion program is funded. It will be able to fund very large projects. So think about filling that gap and consolidating to make a large enough project. I think $25 to $35 million projects.
Wow. Okay. Great. So we're still in this zone of what can happen within the next 1 to 2 years. So I'd be curious to hear, and I'm wondering if, I think Mike Williams, Mike, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I was just curious. I know it sounds like if I was understanding you correctly, and you can get me straight here, set me straight, that your project is moving, it sounds to me moving a little bit faster than what's happening with the other projects. And so I was just curious if there was something that this group should know, or could it lend support, really, especially in the next 1 to 2 years, that could help you be successful with your project, or maybe you already have what you need and you're good to go.
Yeah, I think what we're good to go right now, and I think we're waiting for the grant to be moved out of Treasury mid December, and I think right now ACIAC, we're going to be 24/7 broadband internet services to all of our community citizens by November 15, and it's going to be we're working to do that, and I think what we were able to do is doable in all of the villages, in all of the communities throughout the region right now, and I think with the work that we've done, the planning, and putting all of our energies to this project, it has we have a wonderful team of engineers, administrators, tribal council, the citizens of ACIAC really come together to support this, and I think our goal was not to just do it for ACIAC, but show the example to the rest of the 55 tribes in our region of what they can do together, and I think that was our goal, is to help have that opportunity be realized in our neighboring villages, as well as we have Tuksuk Bay and other Yukon River villages, and it's available right now, and I think with all of those that money that is available, with $167,000 per tribe, and that's guaranteed money for all of the 56 tribes. And, we're looking at all of that, and also looking at all of the opportunities that we have now, the current money from the Congress, and also the infrastructure opportunities once the Congress takes action, and also looking at the EDA opportunities, how we can strengthen, and looking at making the low Earth orbit satellite program better, and also working on phase 2 for the fiber optic opportunity for Akiak and other communities. And I'm glad that thought of bringing fiber is coming, but it's down a ways, and we know that. But right now, all of the villages can take advantage of the low Earth orbit opportunity, and then work on, once the fiber is in, then we can plug it in to the opportunities for high-speed internet for everyone. And yeah, I just have been involved with YKHC for many years, and supported the telehealth program that they had, and also serving as the Board of Education for a school district, and seeing working with GCI over the years to improve the quality of internet and communications, and I think those opportunities, like we have enjoying cell services now, but it's kind of real challenging for payments to be made because of the high cost of communications in the villages. So we got to get the I think our goal right now, Akiak owns all of the equipment, everything. We own the business, and we're going to have accounts for all of them, and the money is going to stay here in Akiak, and if other villages are successful, then we're going to have that economic opportunity that we must enjoy to improve the quality of life. And I think we're pretty excited about what we are doing and what the other communities can do. And I know Bethel is the hub and a big community, and I know that we've been going to Bethel almost every day and do our business down there. And but again, we really appreciate this conversation and taking the opportunities right now. I think the next 3 years we have such great opportunities, and this is not going to be, I think, available again after these investments by Congress and by the administration. We have to take advantage of these opportunities right now, and not wait 2 or 3 years down the road, or we'll never see anything. And with those 2.5 gigahertz, if we don't use it, then we lose it, and we're using that in Akiak. Mm-hmm. So I just really thank everyone for these conversations and these opportunities, and we're very excited once again up here.
Thank you.
Add on to that?
Yeah, please go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the most important thing that needs to be done right now is maybe almost 30 years ago, I went to my my tribe and told them about, hey, and Mark, you were part of this back then, when a license was available, and they had a short time to take control of the telecommunication infrastructure. A few of the villages got together and they formed a telecommunication business. So I went to my village that this is available, and they were afraid because of the lack of understanding of what that technology was about. They were afraid of it. They were scared to go into it, and they were a business, and businesses are supposed to be taking risks to enter into these kinds of services that are available. And I think one of the problems that I'm seeing is the government gives us these opportunities and gives us a short window to take control of, take action on these things. And the first time that I got wind of this 2.5 gigahertz was about 3 years ago. And when we got that, we had 3 or 6 months left to apply for that application. I think they've extended it. So I think, having said that, I think we're going to need some innovators out there to go to the tribes to make them aware these services are available, and you have the opportunity to acquire this license to build this infrastructure in the villages, and these are the benefits that you will get from it. And we need a person that's going to be going out there to sell these services so that they can apply for the license right now, yesterday, to build that infrastructure. And I did a little bit of research, and in the Navajo Nation, they made it happen, and it didn't cost much. They have better tools down there in the States, and to build infrastructure in one of the Navajo Nations all it took was $11,000 to build that Wi-Fi infrastructure in one of their facilities. And that is something that can happen up here, but we need innovators to go out and make the tribes know this is available. These are the benefits. So to make them aware and to make them feel comfortable, yes, it's an opportunity for you to take it yesterday.
Yeah. Hey, Freddie, I think that's actually an action. So it does seem to me like that 2-year target thing that you've got there, the build a cohort, maybe just all those pieces. What I was hearing from John is that's really like, that's the task or the action that we can do over the next, 1 to 2 years. And that way. And that was my question really to everyone on the line right now. And I would be excited to hear from other partners too. Your thoughts there. If Freddie, you can just click on the cell and delete the whole thing at once usuly.
Shelley, can I jump in on that topic?
Please do. Yeah, go for it.
So it was brought up before about the Alaska Tribal Spectrum. It is a consortium, and it's a tribally owned consortium. The board members are the tribes that sign up for it. And that needed to be kind of thrown together, and it wasn't perfect because it wasn't organic. The other really important partners are the regional consortiums that exist now. Of course, your Native Corporation and your Native nonprofit, ABCP and Chalista. But this idea of better coordination is one that the Denali Commission is very interested in. We are talking with the Rasmussen Foundation, who hasn't committed anything. The Rasmussen's online, very supportive of the idea, but we haven't gotten the details out yet. Also talking to Pew Trust, they're a private foundation. We like to raise money wherever we can for your benefit, for the benefit of rural Alaskans. But anything that can be done towards regional planning, consortium planning, statewide planning, I think that the result would be a lot more money for Alaska if we can be strategic in our approach to these funds. So I leave it to the group. But with that said, if people have ideas that they want to vet out and develop, please do come to me. This would be a perfect example of where the Denali Commission could come in with a project. It needs to come from the region, but I would just echo that it's very important, and I would like to work with anyone that has ideas.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. There's also Alaska Tribal Broadband, which is also a Native owned consortium that is providing technical services for the YK consortium, but they are working with other groups around the state. So you've got ATS, you've got ATB. What is really needed, and I've suggested this to a number of parties over 6 or 8 months, is and it's kind of refined into we really need the tribal telecommunication interests really need a statewide organization where we can come and sit at a neutral table, just like the regional corporations presidents and village corporations presidents, and we need to have a table. The tribal interests can get together, do whatever coordination is appropriate, speak with a more unified voice, especially to funders, whether it's to Congress or to private funders, to bring resources in, to cooperate with the large telecom partners, as I hope that they will all evolve into. I hope that GCI and ATS and others will evolve into good partners with tribal communications interests. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and unless you're on the phone with these guys or emailing them, or sometimes it's hard to keep track of who's doing what at any particular instant. But it's going to be really important for the tribal telecommunications interests to get together, sometime before Valentine's Day of, what year is this? Of 2022, because then we will have gotten our NTIA grants, and maybe by then the infrastructure bill will be out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that level, because I guess even in the energy conversation and others that we've had, it's the constant, and it is a priority in the CEDS, by the way, just prioritizing planning, coordination across partners. And I think that's what the real benefit and immediately of the conversation today and those that we had yesterday. Miranda, I see your hand, go for it. You're muted still, Miranda.
A great callback to the conversations that we were having yesterday, to Shelley's point. And I'd be extremely interested, in maybe regional and then potentially follow on state coordination efforts, especially after some of the funding opportunities become more concrete. Once there's, for example, like a notice of funding opportunity, if there could be a neutral facilitator and a flow out of that information to local stakeholders, to the tribes, to village corporations, regional corporations, the nonprofits and other groups in region, so we could all get together and figure out who's interested in what, how various proposals could complement each other. So again, we can bring the most infrastructure as possible to the region to benefit. Someone yesterday made a good point when we were discussing this about AFN as potentially having some capacity to assist. I know that they're working with Greg Razzo, April Ferguson, Mary Kennick, and I think Sarah Peterson on some navigation projects just globally to try to help, there's so much federal money flowing, unprecedented investments that are really sorely needed in rural Alaska. And I know that the YK region, has huge needs and is a great opportunity for investment given the really significant population of rural Alaskan and Alaskan people who live there. So would love to work on efforts on that in the future with you all. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Miranda. Hey, Clarence, I think I saw your hand, but I'm not sure if you still wanted to share something.
Yeah, I just wanted to, when we develop the tasks and the actions and who's going to be lead and, who might be responsible for things, I want to make sure that I'm going to talk about, last year, ABCP's Community Development Division last year, Eric O'Brien contacted us, and we, my staff and I did our best to contact all of the tribes that that still hadn't went out for the tribal broadband. We did our best to try to get them to respond. And, aside from doing it ourselves, which the FCC said we couldn't do, we just need to make sure that that if there's targets like that and things like that, that the lead, we kind of felt bad for not for more tribes not putting their applications in, but it comes down to, I guess, the tribes having to step up and do what they need to do.
I think, Mike, were you going to say something?
Yes, yeah, that's why, with the tribal governments, the federally recognized tribes of the region have all the authority to pass resolutions. And if we had all of the 56 tribes together here, it would pose a lot of opportunities with funding for each tribe. And we have small tribes, we have mid-sized tribes, and we have larger tribes in the region. And the biggest tribe is in Bethel. But we know all of that, and if we could mobilize our tribes and then getting the support from our village and regional corporations to accomplish that, and also the commercial carriers that provide services currently are going to serve. I think that we have a lot of work to do to build the infrastructure here, and I think that is sort of the vision that we have, is that together we are strong, and we would need the support of the village and regional corporations and the commercial carriers working together to build that infrastructure and maximize those dollars that are available from Congress in the next few years. And you will be in good shape. And I look at that opportunity right now, and that's why we're working hard to mobilize as many tribes as we can, and the YKD tribal consortium, we have 17 right now, but I think if 56 has done it, do it, then it'll pose a lot of opportunities for everyone. Boyana.
Thank you, Mike.
Kelly, a comment to Clarence. I just wanted to commend Clarence for that work. Clarence, what you were doing was so difficult, and it's not ABCP, it's not even Alaska, it's nationwide. I'm on nationwide calls with different broadband groups, and the Apache Nation, I think they've got more tribal members than the whole state of Alaska. They were having those same issues. So Clarence, when you're looking at reaching out to 54 tribes, and it was summertime, for crying out loud. It was, subsistence season, and people were out and about. There was all these challenges, but I know for sure that those calls made a big, big difference. So it's hard, but you are not unique. It's hard everywhere. So I commend you for your good work.
And Clarence, I think, and Mike, you can say no if you want, if you need to, but I think that it's fair to say that the broadband consortium is willing to work with BCP, the Community Development Department, in trying to organize, fairly soon, a regional conference, whether it's a video teleconference or people willing to show up to bring, basically to echo what was said here today, to get more information out in front of the communities, let them see what their what their options are, let them see what's coming, and help individual tribes and communities work on their planning process. I think we'd be happy to work with ABCP on that.
Good.
That's
Yeah. Exciting.
that is awesome. Thanks for suggesting that. That's a really concrete task and a coordination task that I was hearing folks say. And Freddie's starting to fill in the blanks there for lead and partners, but it certainly seems like the folks on this call at a minimum make sense. And I would add the Denali Commission to that list. And so this is really great, rich conversation. I did want to just make sure that everybody that's participating today has had a chance to ask their burning questions or make their suggestions for solutions or 1 to 2 year tasks. And so I think, is that, Jonathan, are you on the line? Did you want to share anything specifically from TKC perspective or anything on your mind that you've heard today that you would want to add to or comments?
Sorry, my laptop was shut, so my mic wasn't ready. I'm really just here today to listen and learn. I don't have much to share. We've kind of been keeping tabs on things and getting resources to all of our 10 communities as they need them, but leaving a lot of the decisions up to them at their level. So just listening and learning today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Really glad that you're here. Anyone else that would like to contribute that hasn't had a chance to share yet? I'm kind of looking across our list here, and I think most folks have had a chance to chime in, maybe a couple of Chillista folks that are on, but let me know, everyone, if you need the microphone or would like to share something.
I have a question for Mike.
Go for it, John.
Mike, earlier you mentioned that ACAC Technologies, it's doing I think you're headed in the right direction. I commend and congratulate you for starting that service. But I thought I heard you say earlier that you're going out to the villages so that they can be made aware and build their own infrastructure. And correct me if I'm wrong, and you will help them build that infrastructure so that they can control and maintain and manage themselves.
Yes, I think with ACAC, we're going to take care of we own the equipment and everything, and with those 17 tribes, if they build that infrastructure, then we're going to because we own it, we're going to maintain that, and it's something that the consortium can do together, and also ACAC Technologies is owned by the tribe here, and I think we're going to focus that business here, but I think the opportunities that we've seen to take advantage of these opportunities in these times, we said, let's not just do it for our community. Let's, have that opportunity open up for other communities. But right now, we're employing people to do the work here, and it's pretty rapid, and the training and education that will come as we go along is going to be needed, and we need all of the opportunities with the youth Little Vet in Bethel or other opportunities that we can use to train up our workforce. And but anyway, your question, didn't come clear because of the bad phone connection that I've been having, and I'm still trying to hook up on internet here, and been knocked off a few times already. So, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. We've got that recorded, so we know all of the challenges between you and Mark, and I know Clarence, when Clarence is usually on, it's hard for him to do both video and audio at the same time. So really appreciate everybody connecting in the way that you can, despite all the challenges, and still having a really rich conversation. So Mark, we've just got about 11 minutes left or so, and the last portion, so really great initial discussion. And the one thing I should just mention, everyone, is we did not have a communications working group as part of the work session that we did last year. And so this is really, certainly these conversations have been happening, but we didn't convene and bring a group together last year. So we selected kind of a subset of topics and last year, and we did talk about transportation, but did not talk specifically about communications infrastructure. So really appreciate this as kind of a first work session, subgroup conversation, and there's opportunity for more. The one question that we were curious to hear from folks, and I just would love even just very informal sharing or in the chat, as we're thinking about success, how will we know that we're successful? Is it, every community has, a broadband connection, every community is connected. We're just, what are the real indicators even that you use, our ACS, GCI, telecom partners? What are the indicators that you guys use to measure whether or not you're really successfully delivering a service to your customers? So those are some of the indicators that we'd be curious to hear from any and all of you about. How do we measure whether or not we're really making progress on this stuff? And especially over the next 1 to 2 years, but even further out. And certainly connectivity and the type of connectivity that's been shared earlier. But if there are other indicators and even places where we find that information, those indicators, it would be great to hear that from folks. So if folks just want to informally weigh in on indicators, that would be helpful. Like, what's the data that we should use to measure whether or not we're really doing a good job with all of this?
Well, I think the biggest one is going to be, and I know ACS alluded to this, it's going to be cost reduction to the federally subsidized users. As in our region, as YKHC is able to see a reduction in what they are, having to remit from get back from Rural Health Corporation funding, as the school districts are able to see substantial reductions in their costs under the E-rate, and those costs, they're substantial. They're very substantial. So savings to subsidized organizations, I think, is an immediate one. And then whatever the advertised costs of consumer service in 2024, 2025, 2026 are compared to the advertised cost and the level of service. It's really very simple to see. I mean, those metrics are very easy to discern. And then following on with that would be local workforce involvement, size of local workforce in the telecommunications industry, and also increases in opportunities for education, because when these schools do get good broadband, then we will be able to have, hopefully, school districts sharing good teachers. And that was a dream we had back in 1999 with the Distance Delivery Consortium, was if the LKSD has got just the most crackerjack calculus teacher who can teach, calculus to an 8th grader, kids in the Upiat School District and the Cuspuk School District and Lower Yukon School District should be able to take advantage of that. And you can only do that when you've got that that good video connectivity. So there's that one. And then there's the development of small business. There's the scope of content generation. You know, on KYUK, they interviewed a lady from Chivac who this morning on Coffee at KYUK, and you can stream it on the KYUK website. She got a Rasmussen Foundation grant to develop music and storytelling art and put it online. Well, she lives in Anchorage, so she can do that. But it's tough to be a content creator in rural Alaska, because if you're trying to upload 5 minutes of YouTube, or if you're a musician, you're trying to send some tracks to somebody who's going to produce it for you, and they live in Greenland, and that's true story. It's very, very difficult. So the ease with which we can start to share information, share content, is going to be a indicator. And the other indicator is going to be the scope of economic opportunity that arises. People, there's some good examples, and there's a Fairbanks Daily Newsminer story, maybe it was yesterday's paper, about Blanche Sam, Brilliant Beads by Blanche up in Fairbanks. She does beautiful beadwork. She sells it online. And she has a website, and people out here, we've got excellent artists. The market is there, especially now that you're not going to be getting those Amazon packages for Christmas. You may as well buy local. The number of websites that develop from out here, online sales of, Alaska Native arts and crafts, that's going to be a big indicator. And general happiness when you walk up to somebody at the AC porch and say, "So how do you like that internet these days?" We have the metrics now, and hopefully the metrics in 3 or 4 years will be vastly improved. So that's my view on that.
Great. Thanks, Mark. And you can't see this because I don't think you have a screen still, but Heather Kavanaugh has added some great additions too, with upload speeds, download speeds, latency, and cost. And then she also mentioned FCC is working on new broadband mapping data. So that could likely be the best source for pulling information. And then NTIA also has maps with broadband speeds and availability. And I think we've used some of these in the past for the CEDS updates and full CEDS document. So this is really great. And I think ultimately what we'd like to see here is, what is the baseline or the foundation? So where are we today with each of these data points, and where do we want to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And I think that's kind of a next step, and it's really hard to do that in a robust conversation like this, but maybe that's a next piece, is when there's a group that comes together that can think about what those targets are. And maybe some of you already have some of that in mind. But we're closing in on we have about 3 minutes left on the clock here. I think I heard a voice. Was someone else going to jump in?
Oh, Shelley, it's Heather. I was just going to offer, if we can help you at all with some of that and point you to the data. It sounds like you already know where it is, but just contact me offline. We're happy to do that, because a lot of that data is exactly what we all had to look at when we submitted our applications to NTIA. What's there today. So that's easy to grab. And then it's just a decision, I think, by this group, where do we want to be? So happy to help if we can.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks, Heather.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, if we have Kevin Hamer, who is the point person for the YK consortium, and also Sheila Carl is the executive director. And if we could help in the next gathering, and maybe it would be good to gather after maybe in December to move forward after we hear from the Treasury on those awards. That's what I was thinking about, and thank you for all of the information, and I learned a lot this morning again, and look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate those comments. Would anyone else, we've got a couple minutes left. Anyone else have any final comments or suggestions? And I think just to share with you really quickly that there's several of the other groups that we're meeting with yesterday. And we're hearing more interest in, and we did this with education, workforce development, and housing last year. We brought folks back together in December, and it was just really amazing to have had this initial conversation and take things a deeper dive sooner than like 6 months from now. Folks really were feeling like this is a priority. So appreciate that, Mike. Anyone else, final comments or questions?
Yeah, maybe one comment. Maybe something, it may be measurable, but you know, some of the people that we provide services to in our region, they request assistance from AVCP and other regions from their other organizations. How much of the users are utilizing the internet to apply for a service from any organization? If this becomes available, that paper trail, that paper process will go away, thereby saving trees. So digital information, how much of the villages are, I think we're heading in that direction, and they're getting a taste of it by these digital phones. So how much of the users are using the internet to apply for a TANF support, ICWA support, for solicit application? You know, how much of I think that's a measurable thing, and if more users utilize that service, I think it's going to make it more efficient for them rather than having to fill out a piece of paper, sending it and wait for a month or two before they get something. And when these tools are available to them, I think it's going to be more efficient and faster.
Yeah, great comment. Thank you, John.
Hey, Shelley, this is Clarence.
Yeah, go for it, Clarence.
I just had one thing for, you know, that initial proposal for idea of a broadband conference. I know it takes a lot of you know, time and money to put on conferences. So if, you know, say that if the Delta Broadband and AVCP and Alaska Spectrum were going to put something on with the Denali Commission, could some of the commercial carriers help fund it? That would be my, you know, that would be something that I would consider a measure of success, is to have commercial carriers help fund that.
Great, thanks, Clarence. Okay, any other final thoughts or questions?
I did talk to Shirley Kelly at EDA about possibly funding broadband conferences, and she was interested. That was before COVID, and their portfolio has really changed. But EDA may have some conference funding. Again, that was all pre-COVID, so we'll see.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. Okay, so maybe we will respect everyone's time, and thank you, Mayor Springer, for facilitating and helping to guide the conversation, and to all of you for your contributions. And we also learned a lot today, so it's exciting to see, because I know many of the proposals in the work are, you know, it's hot off the presses, and it sounds like many of you learn from each other too. So thank you again. We'll look forward to sharing the recording and notes from these conversations within the next couple of weeks, and then we can start to think about some of those immediate next steps. So thank you again so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, or we'll see you at 1:30 for 2 sessions that are happening: business development and entrepreneurship. The second session is transportation. So we'll look forward to seeing you in those this afternoon or soon thereafter. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.